Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. It's awesome that you're sitting around with your community group, making the commitment to take some extra time out throughout the week to deeper the discussion that we began on Sunday. And what I loved about last week's discussion, we were talking about seeking God, and from this day forward, is it went deep real quick. In our group, as we started to ask the questions and jumping in, I mean, we were talking about things that we haven't talked about all semester so far. And so I love that. And I know many of you are taking a step of faith to discuss these things. You're stepping out, and even maybe what you shared about things that you're anxious about or things that you're thankful for. And we just appreciate that, because that's what discipleship's all about. That's what groups are all about. Hey, real quick, could you just give a round of applause for whomever is hosting you? Nice and awkward. I'll give you a little bit longer to keep clapping. Just one more round. Just keep on clapping. Look at them strangely. Yeah, you're trashing their house and eating their food. And so it's really great that they've opened up their place for you to be there. And thank you so much for doing that. Remember, even though we're in the middle of a semester, you can still invite somebody to be part of your group as God builds relationships around you. So we invite you towards that. From this day forward has been an incredible launch. I mean, just to see the kind of day that we had on Sunday at church, 4 services. I mean, we were packed out in a lot of different ways. We got room for more people, but it's just incredible. I want to invite you, if you can come to the 8:15 or come to the noon, we would love for you to do that so we can continue to create space for those who Jesus is reaching. And we want to be in partnership with all of that. Well, from this day forward comes with 5 different things. And last week was Seek God. This week we're talking about Fight Fair. Then we'll be in Have Fun, Stay Pure, and Never Give Up. When thinking about fighting fair, one verse comes to mind I want to share with you. It's James 1:19. Know this, my beloved brothers and sisters, brethren and sisterin. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. So we're to be quick to hear, which is really difficult. Slow to speak. Not saying the first thing that comes to our mind, but filtering that through what God would want us to say. And then slow to anger, because sometimes we don't like what we heard. If we don't like what we heard, then we're going to have a reaction to that. So how do we handle that? Well, I think back to 15 years ago, my wife and I were hanging out with another young couple. We had both been married about 4 or 5 years, and we were playing a game called Canasta. And if you know anything about the game, it's all about points and score and all of that. And you're not supposed to talk at the table. Well, there was a little bit of talking that began at the table, and that's when Canasta went to Canasti. And I remember that moment. The game was at the very end, and there's a 3-hour game that's happening, very competitive, and the girls began to talk. Well, I had an opinion about that. They ultimately ended up winning the game, but in my mind, they should have lost the game. And so we started an argument, a discussion, let me clarify. We started a discussion with the 4 of us, and that discussion turned into an awkward, we'll see you tomorrow at church type of situation, and then it turned into an awkward drive home, and then it turned into a 2-hour conversation as we laid in bed, and I was ready to win this argument because I had just lost the game. And in the reality of it, it wasn't that big of a deal. And what's crazy to think that even in our fighting, we can share the light. So even when you fight, you can share the light. We're supposed to shine the light of Christ before all others, before all men, so that they would know who he is. And I found myself not just not shining the light, but also discouraging my wife and the other people we are around in that process. Where does that come from? Did it come from me having a bad heart? Did it come from past experience? Did it come from just the fact that I'm very competitive and I wanted to win the game? We've all had those types of situations, but maybe because of some of the things in your past is where it has come from for you. So what I want to encourage you to do, whether you're married or single, remember this series is specific to marriage, but it actually encapsulates all of relationships. And once again, thank you to those who are single, who are just driving into this and saying, how could I continue to grow in my relationship with Christ? I just love that and want to thank you again for it. But would we all take some time and answer this question? How did your parents and family handle conflict while you were growing up? How has that shaped the way that you handle conflict with others even today? So talk about that. Have a great time discussing with one another. Remember, fight fair, handle conflict in the way that God would want to, because we are to shine his light. Hey, thank you so much for being part of this. Remember, let's keep seeing one another. Let's gather together on Sundays. Let's connect throughout the week, and let's pray fervently for one another. God is growing us deeper and maturing us as a body, and what you're doing in community is making it happen. Thank you.